Books presents Charlottesville, An American Story by Deborah Baker, narrated by the author.
Charlottesville, An American Story by Deborah Baker. Epigraph. We have to do with the past only as we can make it useful to the present and to the future. Frederick Douglass, What to the Slave is the 4th of July.
Introduction.
It was Mother's Day weekend. The weather was gorgeous. The dogwoods dotting the streets of downtown were in their last blooms. Final exams at the University of Virginia were over, and commencement was a week away. In a deconsecrated church on Market Street that Saturday, a spirited debate was taking place between two Democratic candidates for governor. Catty-corner to the church, in Lee Park,
The annual family-friendly Festival of Cultures was underway.
Tables were filled with foods from the many immigrant communities that made Charlottesville their home. At 11 a.m., a group of 150 men, many dressed in white polo shirts and khaki pants, entered the park, along with 10 women in white dresses. Their behavior was disconcerting in a way that only made sense later. Around noon, they set off again from a playground and park 1 block west and 2 blocks north of Lee Park, unfurling their various flags as they hit East High. Only the Confederate battle flags would have been readily identified. A man named Richard Spencer, shadowed by a security detail, led the procession to Court Square a few minutes away. Word soon got out that something weird was happening near the courthouse.
Spencer had just begun his speech when the news reached the reporters covering the candidates' debate.
"This is the beginning of a movement," Spencer shouted through a bullhorn. "This is the beginning of an awakening here in Charlottesville, an awakening that is going around the entire world." Spencer may have planned to give his speech in Lee Park, but that was where the Festival of Cultures was taking place. Jackson Park in Court Square was an adequate substitute. Spencer, who had just turned 39, was a white nationalist, and Court Square enhanced his nationalist themes. Albemarle County boasted 3 founding fathers, and all of them, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and James Monroe, were said to have frequented a Court Square tavern on market days. Also, the focal point of the square in the half-acre park adjoining it was a statue of another Confederate general, Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson, mounted on his horse, Little Sorrel. Nonetheless, it was the statue of Robert E. Lee in Lee Park that provided the professed reason for Spencer's Charlottesville visit. Many of the men accompanying him carried posters featuring the Lee Monument. After a recent and controversial city council vote to find the statue a new home, a circuit court judge had issued an injunction to delay its removal for 6 months. Into this local tempest rode Richard Spencer on his own high, white horse. For 10 years, Richard Spencer had hawked his dream of a white America at conferences here and in Europe, backed in large part by a 77-year-old scion of the Regnery publishing empire named William Regnery II. Regnery had poured his considerable wealth into the institutes, societies, publishing arms, colloquia, speakers' fees, dinners, hotel rooms, and bar bills of a far-right brain trust, including Spencer's National Policy Institute, which he co-founded. "My support has produced a much greater bang for the buck," Regnery boasted in 2017, "than anything produced by the brothers Koch or Soros, Inc." White nationalists and advocates for white civil rights like Richard Spencer had begun seeing their star rise in the summer of 2015, 2 years before, when Donald J. Trump began his hostile takeover of the Republican Party. As with Trump, the more the mainstream liberal media tried to lampoon the thought leaders of this brain trust, the more heads it grew. In an article on the rise of the far right, a veteran New Yorker journalist suggested that men like Spencer were living in an alternate reality where white Americans faced imminent extinction. The South was preparing to secede, and Donald Trump was going to be president. With Trump's election the following year, this alternate reality abruptly replaced the one the New Yorker journalist and I lived in. Suddenly, Richard Spencer had the answer to the question of the moment. What did we miss? He became the talking head everyone needed. Then, on the day of Trump's inauguration, while Spencer was explaining the significance of his Pepe the Frog lapel pin to a film crew, a masked man came up and clocked him. The resulting video went viral on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and broadcast media. The remixes with background music from...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.